Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I am joined, as always, by my resident co-host, Greg. Hi, Greg.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Great. And we are so excited to have with us Mr. Luis Leonardo. He is a father, he is a husband, he is an endurance athlete, he is a business owner, and to most, he is known as the Sauna Papi. Welcome, Sauna Papi.
Hello.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me here, guys. Quite the honor.
Absolutely. We are so honored to have you and can't wait to learn about all things sauna, cold plunge, breath work, movement. And I want to start by how we met. About a year ago, we met at Driveway to Hell at Jesse Itzler's Build Your Life Resume community event. And I had never done a cold plunge before, like many people who were there. And we had this wonderful experience in the sauna, and you were there sharing all of your knowledge with everyone. And then I jumped into that ice chest, neck deep in ice. And I remember you kind of leaning over the edge and talking me through in such a calm, beautiful way on focusing on my breath, imagining almost that I was in a hot tub, just relaxing. And it was really profound for me. And since then, it's been something that we try to implement as often as we can. And we have since purchased a sauna, and I'm interested to hear your expertise on the different types of saunas and sauna usage. But thank you for that, because you introduced us into a world that would have otherwise felt so not doable, unattainable. And so I'm sure that you have a lot of people tell you that that's been their experience with you. You have a big community around you. And so if we can kind of start there, how did you start exploring the world of hot and cold temperature therapy?
Yeah, it's quite hilarious actually, and I really enjoy sharing the story of the beginnings for me. And some of you might know I'm originally from Guatemala. Guatemala is like they call it the country of the eternal spring. And there's no winter in Guatemala, you know. I basically half of my life I lived in Guatemala and never really got to experience a winter like a real winter, you know. But yeah, fast forward to I moved to the US in 2006, and I kind of was in different parts of the country. But before moving to Minnesota, which is where I live now, I was in Northern California. And I mean, that was like the most winter I really ever got to experience on an ongoing basis. So anyhow, I moved to Minnesota in 2012, and little that I knew that the winter was gonna kick my butt big time.
Right, quite a contrast.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but I mean, Minnesota winter is one of the toughest winters in the country, and maybe probably in the world. You know, I mean, it's in the top. It's a very cold place here in the winter,
Right.
especially January, February. You're not messing around with the cold here.
What do the temperatures get down to and the wind chill? I mean, it's extreme.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been times that the wind chill is -60, you know, and you might be sitting at -20, -30 degrees, and yeah, it's no joke.
My goodness. Yeah.
So yeah, so can you imagine for a guy from Guatemala like experiencing winter here? It wasn't an easy thing, and literally I hated it with all of my guts. But not just the fact that I didn't like the cold, but actually like I was getting sick constantly, and I was also getting like depressed or kind of negative, and I was like, this is really affecting me in so many different ways, you know.
Right.
And then I hated everything about it in terms of like how everything just gets more complicated, you know. I gotta dress up more, I gotta put all these layers, and you might slip in the ice and all that stuff. So it was quite a shock, and my first 2 winters here were horrible, you know. And I was like, I'm starting to really get sick of this, and either I find a solution or I don't know how I'm gonna be able to keep living in Minnesota, you know.
Sure.
And my background, it's been in endurance sports. I grew up being a competitive triathlete, and I mean, most of my life, I never been like a unhealthy individual. Like before moving to Minnesota, I will barely ever get sick.
Sure.
I mean, knock on wood, I've been able to navigate my life without sickness. And I was like, I started to get very frustrated with the fact that in the winter I was getting constantly like sick. and on top of that, I was doing personal training. So that's kind of like my backbone. That's been my career pathway. So I needed to be on top of my game, you know, and you get
Yeah.
up really early in the morning, you gotta go train clients and be in the best possible version of yourself. And it was so hard. So yeah, that drove me to start doing my own research. And I was like, there has to be a way to get better about enduring the winter. So through my own little research, I crossed paths with Wim Hof and started learning about taking cold showers and the benefits of doing that. And I was like, well, this sounds so easy. I mean, like I have access to cold water at home, you know, like anytime I take a shower. So I started taking cold showers in 2014, and that changed me completely to the point that I was like, this is so powerful. I cannot believe that people don't preach about this. And not just from the aspect of like, oh, I started not getting sick during
Sure.
the winter, but I was like also I started realizing, especially in the morning, like I will wake up at 4:20 in the morning to start coaching clients at 5 a.m. And my go-to in the morning was like, okay, drink a little water, make your coffee, and start waking up type of a thing. And I just completely changed my mindset about my morning routine. And I started just diving in taking a shower and taking a cold shower, like ending in cold. And I was like, wow, I'm so energized. I feel like I just had like two double espressos,
Right.
and I was like, this is amazing. So I started literally getting very hooked with the energy and the sensation of that. And after a couple of winters of doing that, I was like, this is there's more here. I'm gonna keep tapping into this, and in a very organic way, without anyone guiding me, I just started playing more and more with the code. And to give you like some examples, you know, I was like, I will be driving on the car and I'll be like, you know what, I want a little more cold right now. So I will put the windows down for like 5 minutes and be just breathing cold there, and just getting that sensation and just knowing like it's waking me up. I'm feeling more alive, and I just felt like there was so much benefit in it. And then kind of understanding that people are very afraid of it. And I was like, hey, if you
Yeah.
treat it with respect, there's a lot that it will give you. And then I started playing more with, well, I'm going to start exposing myself to the cold a little more outside. And I started not wearing layers anymore, which actually, that just simplified my life so much. And
Sure.
especially being a guy that never grew up having to wear layers, you know, I'm like, oh, now I'm like, if I'm going from my house to the car and then to the gym, and I'm just getting micro doses of being out there, like I really don't need to be wearing layers. I'm not gonna die, you know. So I started just really playing like with the idea of minimal layers, getting cold showers, breathing cold air, and started just doing a lot of cold exposure like that. And I started noticing that I started getting more resilient, and I
Mm.
started feeling like the winter wasn't like the cold wasn't feeling so hard anymore. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it's always hard, and it will always humble you, and you gotta treat it again with a lot of respect. But I just really felt like I'm starting to become friends with it, and I'm learning how to tango with it. And I kid you not, every time that, like every time we got a snow, I will get so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna go shovel right now, and I'm gonna take my layers off. I'll be wearing like just my pants. I'll take my t-shirt off, and I'll get cold. And then I started like realizing like this fact that I'm gonna tell you guys is like we live so surrounded by comfort in society. And I just started thinking of all of that. I was like, okay, yeah, we never want to get out of 72 degrees. Uh, you don't want to get too hot, you don't want to get too cold, and we're just pampered all of the time. And it goes in so many different tiers, you know, like with food, you don't want to be hungry, you don't want to be tired, and it's all these things that like society just makes us so soft.
That's right.
And I was like, you know, I'm starting to feel a little more like internally, mentally stronger, and I'm feeling like I'm connecting with my wild human being by doing this type of stuff. And the reward was like a very high level of happiness. So to give you a perfect example, I will go out and shovel snow for an hour in the cold, and I will be really cold at the end of that, you know?
Sure.
But then in return, I will go back inside of the house and I'm like, this is happiness. Like, this is the highest level of happiness. Now I'm comfortable again. And I just did that gnarly thing outside. So I started like really understanding, okay, what is the definition of happiness for me? And it's those little basic things that we tend to take for granted. Okay, go experience real hunger and then go eat a meal. That's
Right.
real happiness, you know?
A completely
Um,
different level of appreciation for all of the
yeah,
things that we see as basic and integral in our life are actually privileges. And I
exactly.
love that you said that you had to kind of respect it and get to know it and befriend the cold, because we're from Ohio originally, which is not nearly as cold as Minnesota, but definitely colder than Florida.
Oh, totally.
And I remember resisting the cold. And I feel like I probably still would a little bit if I'm being honest, but just running to the car in layers and shrugging up and all of this tension that I was carrying, trying to stay warm in my own little space and get the heat on in the car as quickly as possible. And I love that you said, I'm not going to do that. This is not how I'm going to live my life in layers and tense and in the cold and depressed. I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to
Yeah.
figure out how to use cold to my benefit by being curious and educating myself. So please
Yeah.
proceed. I love this.
Well, and then, you know, it's like it slowly just kept growing in me. This factor, this fact of, hey, get out of your comfort zone every day somehow, and be seek getting more resilient with nature, because it's a very powerful thing. I started analyzing also like animals, you know, animals that live in the wilderness. And I started noticing these common denominators amongst them, you know, like looking at a group of animals, like to give you an example, you look at a group of deer in the wild, they all look the same. They all do the same patterns of movement. They're not making things complicated. They're always searching for food. Food is never a guarantee, but they're out there in the elements, and they're very healthy. They're very resilient. And I was like, how come us humans we're so different, and everyone is dealing with so many different things, and you tend to look at animals and they're like thriving. They're always like the best version of themselves, and you can just see it by looking at how they live their lives and how they perform. And I was like, well, what are the things that they don't have that we do? You know, they don't have a home. They don't have restaurants. They don't have stores. They don't have the
Conveniences.
internet. They don't have all this technology that we have. And so I started thinking like, hey, I want less of what society is offering, and I'm gonna try to get more from nature and the climate, dealing with all of those things that are so simple, you know. And then almost like kind of organically again, I kept just digging deeper into all of this stuff, and I started realizing like, well, technology these days is blowing up in so many different ways, you know. You have gadgets that, like, I kid you not, I feel like soon somebody's gonna come up with something that is gonna tell you when you need to take a breath, you know. And I'm like, this is so crazy, you know. And then they looking at people that get addicted on these things, like, oh, I haven't get my steps of the day. My watch is telling me like I need to do this. And it's like, dude, internally you're wired to know all of these things. Why do we feel like we need to be having all of these things that you don't really need, you know? And
Right.
so I started learning more about simplifying my life, and with that, getting micro doses all day long of happiness. So I was like, this is awesome, you know? And I want to keep living my life like this, because I came from being a very competitive athlete that was always chasing something, trying to perform. And then I started shifting my mind about, hey, how about you start more thinking of the bigger picture? And trying to appreciate life for what it is, and seeking for longevity in the long term. So I started thinking, and then looking at my kids and realizing, like looking at some other people out there, you know, looking at a 40-year-old dad that is completely out of shape, and that looks like it might be 60 years old. And you're like, wow, I just don't want to be that. And I don't want to be literally drinking the Kool-Aid of society anymore. So again, it all started with the cold, and the cold was like the beginning of this complete reset for me, and started just teaching me a lot. Fast forward 2014, I started cold showers and started playing with more exposure to the cold and kept diving deeper and deeper. And I remember like getting 3 or 4 years into it, and I was like, I think winter is my favorite season now of the year, you know. And I literally I was getting excited, you know, when the temperature started dropping. I was like, I'm excited to learn more about me, you know, and
I
what I'm
love that.
capable. And again, keeping the mindset of let your body show you and your mind teach you what you're capable, and keep discovering concepts and really explore things, but you will learn on your own. I just need to keep doing this crazy stuff, you know, and it became an evolution for me. And every year I felt like I was kind of peeling an onion a little deeper, going into another level of me. Then literally before COVID, fast forward to 2019, and that's when I started like taking things to the next level. I was like, well, I'm jumping in the frozen lake now, you know, like I want to do that. And
Yeah.
this is right before it actually became what it is now. You know, now everyone's jumping in the frozen lake. Everyone wants to take a picture in the frozen water with ice,
Yeah.
and this is kind of like right before it all became this massive trend, you know, and
I'm so
started.
glad that you brought that up, because I think that's what people think of when they think of sauna and cold plunging. It's an opportunity to do something wild and take a picture and be on trend, but it's so much deeper than that. And it's also not limited to just all of the physical benefits of being an athlete. It's not just for people who are physically active. The mental element of it is so important. And I love that that's kind of been the driving force, and that we're just learning that about you, obviously, but that's such a beautiful way to present this as a therapy. It isn't just the physical, it's also driven
Oh
by
yeah,
the underlying mental development.
yeah, totally. Towards the end of 2019, out of the blue, I connected with a few friends of mine that we were all drinking the Kool-Aid of the cold. And we're like, hey guys, there's this lake nearby here that there's a hole that apparently people keep this hole open, you know, during the entire winter, and they're jumping in the cold water. I'm like, I was so curious about it, and I decided to go check out this place. And it was a Sunday at 1 p.m. and like it was like 5 of us that got together. We did a workout. I came wearing minimal layers because that was how I was tangoing already with the winter, you know, and we just did a workout on the frozen lake, and then we jump in the cold water, and there was no sauna. And then we went from getting in the cold water to then shivering like a maniac, you know, and then you're putting your layers on, and then you go back in the car, and you're like in this massive shock that your body is trying to warm itself up again. And I kid you not, it was like the most incredible experience to actually be shivering for like an hour after that, and getting home and telling my wife like, yeah, these shivers, they're awful, but I'm so happy right now, you know, and
I
and just
swear
getting
I'm
this,
happy.
yeah, getting this like dopamine release
Yeah.
from that type of an experience. And I kid you not, it was like a drug. I was so hooked. I reached out to my same group of friends. I was like, guys, I'm going there next Sunday again at 1 p.m. You know, if you want to join me. And we all showed up, and like the word went out. The second time we did it, like 20 people came,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I didn't know half of them, you know, and people are showing up, and they start asking, hey, like, are you guys gonna keep doing this? And yeah, like, yeah, I'm here every Sunday now, you know. And through like a 8 week span, this thing just took off on its own, and it was incredible for me actually to witness. Like, most of these people grew up here in Minnesota, you know, and they have access to this, and now they're just discovering this. And I'm the guy from Guatemala that is kind of showing this to people. And I like, this is hilarious.
Right.
That was literally the beginning of it. And yeah, towards the end of it, like the last couple of times that we got together prior to the shutdown from COVID, the group grew to like 100 people, you know. So
Oh my
imagine like
goodness.
100 people at the lake. We're all wearing like our outfits look like you're in Miami, you know, and here we are. We're living life, and we're gonna get cold, and it's gonna be awesome, you know. And so that was like like that just showed me like how much people really need this type of stuff. And it was incredible to witness that. Then we went into the COVID shutdown and all of that, but that I always love sharing the story of my beginnings because it was a very self-induced like journey of learning and discovering that, hey, just keep tapping into all of this and nature will teach you. I love giving you guys this kind of like visual of how I have evolved with it, because when I first started jumping on the frozen lake, you typically get to like here, and a lot of people are like right here, their hands are out and you're fighting with it. And I quickly learned after my first couple of dips, I was like, focus on your breath, relax, and be in the mindset of just succumb to the cold. Just make amends with the cold and don't fight with it, but focus on your breathing. So slowly I started like playing with, I want more. Like I started like, okay, I'm gonna get my hands under the water. Oftentimes people wear like neoprene gloves and booties because your hands get so gnarly cold, you know. And then I took those off and I'm like, I want more. Like I want to get more resilient with this thing. And then I started like feeling like, okay, I'm getting more tolerant to it. My hands don't ache as much as they used to. And then I started just going deeper and deeper and deeper to the point that, I mean, a few years ago, I was like, I couldn't get deeper, like any more deep, you know. I will get to the water right here and be able just to breathe. But I wanted to get my vagus nerve and my neck, and I just experienced these sensations of my body waking up from the cold that I was like, this is so amazing, you know. And I was the first person with my business partner now, Harris, and we were the first ones that started going under the water with a bamboo straw, you know.
The poppy stick.
Like, yeah, I've been like going deeper into the water, and it's humble me and teach me so much more about how resilient my body is. And I take it to also like another level. Like in the winter now, I try to spend a lot of time barefoot. I only wear shoes if like when I'm going out and if I'm going to a store and that. But if I'm in my gym or at home, I'm always barefoot, and I try to be barefoot as much as possible. And then in the winter, I'm trying to be barefoot, and I'm trying to develop resilience of my feet in the cold. So I started experiencing that, and that was another kind of big humbling experience for me. Like the cold slowly got my feet more resilient, and I could sit outside. Like and the cool thing is like every winter you have to build that tolerance again.
Sure.
But during the winter, this last winter, you know, I could be outside for a few hours, like walking or doing stuff on the snow and be okay.
I think
And
that's
it was,
fascinating, because what I hear you saying is that it wasn't just I jumped in the lake and it was ice cold and it was amazing, and so I kept doing it. It was a slow progression of allowing your body to adjust to befriending and relaxing and feeling the sensations of the cold. And I think that's also maybe a common misconception, is that you just get in and then that's it. And you look at someone like you and you're like, well, why can't I do that? I'm never doing that again. That's crazy. You make it look so easy, but you've been doing it for years and studying it. And I just think that's so important to note, because it doesn't appear that way. It's beyond the surface that you're sharing with us that I think is just so fascinating.
Yeah. And then obviously there's all these studies that you can look into, like brown fat development, but it only happens through getting cold, you know, and then your body starts doing what it's supposed to do. And that's something that animals in the wild have, you know. They have a lot of sources of brown fat, and that's why they can be resilient out there. So, but
is there a temperature that's too cold?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, if I'm gonna be outside for a long period of time and not moving my body too much, I'm gonna put layers on, and it's gonna be nasty. Like it's like you'll get cold, and again, the cold can kill you, you know. So
right. How have you learned to understand the threshold of that and understand, you know, how to stay away from hypothermia and frostbite and things like that? And just learning this yourself, have you ever been afraid that you've pushed too far? What has your experience been?
It's been a lot of testing and learning. I think my my own understanding of how cold can I go is like it always is different. At the beginning of the winter, it tends to be less tolerant, but if I'm constantly getting outside often and exposing myself to the cold, that starts to build up more and more, and you get more tolerant to it. At the beginning of the winter, to give you an example, when the temperatures start dropping here in Minnesota below 40, that feels really cold. And then towards the end of the winter, when you're getting into the 30s, I'm like, this is so easy now, but I've been exposing myself to it all of the time. But it always changes. I didn't have saunas until later on, so literally I started playing with saunas until like right on COVID year, later in 2020.
If you are watching the YouTube video, you may notice that we all look different. We had a slight costume change. It's because we had technical difficulties, and Louise was so gracious to extend more time and reconnect so we can continue our conversation that we lost. So thank you, Louise, and welcome back. So we made it all the way through the conversation about cold therapy and through introducing saunas into your life. And so you had mentioned I had played with saunas. It was like COVID time. What was your first experience with the sauna?
Great question. And literally, it was just something that was always in the back of my mind after I started jumping in the frozen lakes. I was like, oh man, it would be so cool to have a sauna after I'm shivering here from the frozen lake. And then obviously I live in Minnesota, so I've been very self-aware that this place has a lot of Finnish, Norwegian heritage, and saunas are out there here, So I knew that, okay, I'm actually in a place that I could easily figure how I can get access to a sauna here in Minnesota. And I just started doing my own research and plugging with people, and ended up purchasing my first sauna for my gym. And this was in the middle of the pandemic. And at the same time, I was like, well, it looks like gyms are being shut down. I wonder if I could potentially run a side sauna business where I could start renting it out and kind of allowing people to have the similar experience to what I do on the lake. But yeah, it happened kind of very organically, just by living here and having this need or this idea, like, hey, it will be amazing if I could go jump in a sauna right now, when I'm shivering after a cold dip on the lake.
Right. Well, I mean, your nickname is Sauna Papi. It's not ice cold plunge Papi. So how did the nickname come about?
That's actually, it used to be Freeze Luis. That was my Instagram back in the day.
Okay.
So it all, I always had to tell people it all started because of the cold. But I think there's something very magical that happens in the sauna, and you guys probably already experienced that. There's this beautiful community human experience that happened in the sauna. And through several episodes, several hours, several rounds of getting in the sauna with people, and then with a lot of my friends and people that are in my community, it kind of became very clear that there was a very big passion of mine facilitating the experience. And it literally took one of my very good friends, Jake Parento. Jake, if you're listening to this, it was you. He was in the sauna one time, and I was doing my own thing. I was like checking the stove, like putting wood, making sure that the temperature was right. And then I was splashing my essential oils and putting water, and just making sure that the experience was being super for everyone. So he saw me just coming in the sauna and doing that, and he's like, oh, the Sauna Papi is here. He just said it like so natural, and I was like, and everyone kind of agreed. They all laugh, and there was like this magical moment. And I knew, like, I just sat on that name for maybe a month or so, and I knew, like, I should actually change my name to the Sauna Papi, it kind of goes in line with who I am. I'm a Latin guy. I'm from Guatemala. I live in Minnesota. I started showing people in Minnesota how to jump on the frozen lake, and then now doing sauna. So it had like this hilarious aspect of it. And I was
Right.
like, and once I saw that it was available, it was like a no-brainer. I'm like, I'm the Sauna Papi. So
Right.
yeah, it
Love
just
it.
happened. It happened like that.
And so many people refer to you as Sauna Papi or Papi. I mean, I would venture to guess that a lot of the people who follow you or know of you may not even know what your name is because you've become the Sauna Papi, which is so amazing. I love those monikers and I think that's super cool. And that's how we know you. So I do have a couple questions about the sauna in particular, obviously as a way of warming up when your body is shivering, but there are so many benefits that you could probably give me a huge long list. But I'm curious, are all saunas created equally? Because we personally just bought an infrared sauna. I've heard different things about steam versus infrared. We've experienced steam saunas in many different ways. So what's your take on that? Just doesn't have to be an expert opinion, just kind of your opinion or what you know about the differences.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely different categories for it. And I mean the most common two different options are infrared saunas. Those typically the heat is lower than what you can experience on a regular sauna, and you have actual like some people actually get mad at this topic. They're like, a sauna should be anything that is above certain temperature. If it's above 160 degrees, then it's a real sauna. If it's below that, it's not really a sauna. So there's this kind of controversy with people that own infrared sauna saying that, oh, this is a real sauna. It's just a different category. It does something completely, it operates different in your body, but ultimately they're called saunas because you're sitting in the heat. But yeah, I mean, to me, the real sauna is ideally a wood burning or a super powerful electric stove that has rocks to it. Those rocks absorb heat. And once they are very, very hot, then you can splash water into them, and then you have this steam effect, and you sweat profusively on this type of saunas. So to me, that's the real sauna. But then you have infrared, which now I'm actually incorporating into what I do. Is almost like a different tool that I'm gonna be utilizing with the gym, with Sauna Strong. But ultimately, like, this is where my expertise come. I'm teaching people how to use these things, or how I do these things, to try to educate people to get a better experience doing them. If you were to ask me which one is my favorite, it depends what I'm going after. If I'm looking to exercise and get infrared light therapy, I will use an infrared sauna because the temperature is a little more friendly to actually move your body. But once you get moving your body, your core temperature is going to rise up, but you'll still be able to move and exercise in there. But it's a whole different ballgame if you were trying to go work out in a regular sauna that is 200 degrees. That might be a little too crazy. So I've been learning about all of these modalities, and now I feel confident enough that I can teach people how to use all of the different modalities of sauna. Again, those are the two modalities that I use all of the time. There's other versions of saunas, and I mean, I would say like the downgrade of a sauna is like a typical gym sauna that is not too hot. You cannot splash the water, and you go sit there, and you're kind of like, ah. And I kid you not, the more I have talked to people about saunas, a lot of people have experienced that type of sauna, and therefore they're like, yeah, I don't know why you guys are drinking this Kool-Aid with the saunas, because I'm like, well, you haven't really experienced what this is all about. You guys have been in both of those different saunas. You just mentioned you guys have an infrared sauna, so maybe you can educate me on your takeaway of, is there a massive difference between those two, right?
In my experience, and Greg, I'm interested to hear what you have to say too. I would mimic what you just said. They're just a different experience. So like the steam sauna to me feels a lot more intense. The moisture, it's a different way of breathing. Like it's just a different experience when you're fully immersed in a steam or wood burning sauna, for sure. The smell, the the visual. I mean, it's just all very different. The infrared felt more accessible. It felt like something that, you know, is something that we can have in our home, that other people, you know, are able to purchase. And I know there are other versions that you can have outside that are wood burning that you can have at home as well. But it just felt more accessible, and it seems very almost clean and easy to get into. And there is some movement to it. You know, I have a lot of arthritis. I have almost no cartilage in the shoulder, and it's something that I can sit in that room by myself, move my shoulder around, try to increase my range of motion, feel the benefits of the infrared. But I am no expert by any means. It is just, I love getting in and sweating and detoxing and spending that time with myself. And a lot of times it has less to do with the heat or the steam or the environment, and more to do with it's time for me to sit and allow myself to quiet everything else around me, because you can't do a whole lot in the sauna but think, connect with yourself, or chit chat with someone else who's in the sauna with you, which there's a lot of depth in those conversations too. But that's why I was curious what your take was on the difference, because I'm sure the benefits are plenty for both ways. Just depends on what you're really looking for, and the experience is different in both ways too, but not in a good or bad or preferential way, in my opinion. Yeah. Greg?
I had done them in like at the YMCA, you know, you go sit in there for like 10 minutes and get a little sweat going, but I had never done it at the intensity level. The first time we met you at the driveway to hell at Sarah and Jesse's house, and it was like 15 people in I don't know how big that sauna was, but man, and then in the hats, you know, and I'm like, what is this? That was that was really my first time cold plunging and doing it like an intense sauna like that, and having, you know, people like that you don't know, like right beside you, and then the community and the conversation. So it was a very interesting experience, and I don't know, it was definitely a life-changing experience for sure, you know, to experience that. So
I agree. Totally. And so you're implementing these infrared saunas in your gym, which we have a name for since the last time we spoke, which I believe you mentioned as Sauna Strong. Is this an official? Yeah. Yes. Awesome. And so how are you incorporating movement and these infrared saunas in your gym? What is this new approach?
With my business partner, Harrison, we've been for a while now, we've been coaching fitness with the approach of breath focused training. If you know, like, what goes off the minute you get in the cold water is usually your breath. That's the first thing that goes off. And so it's learning how to operate under stress with your breath, through movement, cold water, sauna, and then applying these actual methods to deal with the stress on the real world, and just getting yourself more dialed through the breathing aspect of it. It was kind of like a very organic situation that happened to us here, because I've been doing regular sauna all of the time. You know, it's a big part of my life and how I incorporate with fitness. And basically we got to a point where we wanted to redo the gym. We were already thinking, okay, how are we gonna grow this experience and this concept into this direction that we're trying to go, which is ultimately trying to provide a more simple approach for people to get the most bang for your buck, and not needing to utilize a lot of different equipment. So we came across this company that actually builds infrared saunas here in Minnesota, and we started just having conversations with them. The actual owner, he's been basically building infrared saunas since the 1986 or so. And he has a very big international presence, but I was blown away that there was a manufacturer of this type of saunas here in Minnesota that had like basically a machine that could operate for us to use for doing workouts inside of it. And so that was like, once I kind of discovered this, that's when the wheels just started turning for Harrison and myself, and we're like, hey, let's start. Let's see if this could work. And we started testing these machines out and learning more about them. The machines that we're going to be incorporating into the space are basically, it's like think of a mini workout room. We're going to have 6 of them in the main floor of the gym, which is kind of where I'm sitting right now here. We're going to provide people with a program to go inside of the machine and do movement. with breath focus training. To put it in a nutshell, is mainly teaching people how to breathe through their nose and deal with learning functional breathing patterns to maximize your workout, to maximize your experience, get your mind dialed. And these machines have different modalities of infrared light. So we're working with all of these different light patterns. The machine pumps clean oxygen into it. There's Himalayan sea salt panels, there's jade stones. And I kid you not, that you walk into this thing and you start noticing, like, I feel really good in here. And then you start moving in there with this breath focus approach, and you're getting basically an incredible amount of energy and movement and sweat in 30 minutes. So checking so many boxes in just a short amount of time. And then we pair it with the modality of the regular sauna. So then for our members, they're going to also have access to community saunas where you can go socialize and then get, we call it like free cardio, you know. You already work out and you go sit in the sauna. Before you even touch cold water, your body is going to be kind of in zone 2 training. So you're still burning a lot of calories. You're still exercising. You're detoxifying your mind more. And ultimately, you're becoming more resilient. So yeah, that's basically the modality. That's the concept behind. I had multiple gym concepts that I've been a part of as a trainer, or that I had to start or got myself into. And the hardest thing sometimes is finding right trainers that can teach what you're trying to preach. And we're actually cutting through the chase with all of this. It's like the programming for this is going to be made by Harrison and myself. We'll have our own app that is going to be linked to our membership, you know, and people are going to be able to come and use these machines, use the space to do breath focus training in it. And it might be like, sometimes the member is going to be like, you know, I'm instead of doing the workout inside of the sauna, I'm going to do it outside in the gym floor, but you're also focusing on the breath piece all of the time. I feel like we're gonna become like a peloton of sauna breath focus training, and we're gonna have a physical location here in Minneapolis, but we're also gonna be selling these machines with our program to people all across the nation. And we have this very strategic partnership with the manufacturer. Actually, the owner is in our business now as a partner too. So yeah, it took us a lot of ups and downs and curveballs of all of this stuff that I've been doing for a while to actually land on this concept. And I kid you not, I'm super excited. We're putting a very incredible business together with this thing. We have some investors working with us now, and basically Harrison and I are going to be running the show with the programming and the actual experience of this thing. And again, we're putting a very unique concept. There's nothing like this out in the world, and we're hoping that this is going to become a very big thing, that we're hopefully going to open more locations, you know. But again, we're actually coming with an accessibility for people to have access to the machine and our programming too, and to basically to be able to do it from home.
That's amazing. I love that. Congratulations. The room sounds like a magical space. I love that it's possible for people to experience that, not just in your space, but potentially in their own home. And I also love the scalability and the accessibility to your app, that like, even if I don't have the room, I can still participate in learning the breath work and the modalities through your app directly with you and Harrison. The experience is a major part of it, as you know. So I think that's just so beautiful that you're finding a way to combine all of these elements and bring this to whoever is interested in it. And hopefully it catches on, you know, more and more and more as it has anyway. But your concept in particular, because there's so much richness to it. It sounds like that. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, we're very excited, and to kind of complement all the stuff that I mentioned already, it's like we're doing it with so much passion. We actually, our main driver is we want to teach people basically the experience that we have, because we've been guinea pigs of all of this, you know. But we have learned by exposing ourselves, by jumping in the frozen lake, by doing it all of the time and learning what happens here, and then developing this programming, you know. And ultimately it's very simplistic, but we're we're very passionate about, hey, we want to teach people how to get the most bang for their buck with these modalities that are out there that are trending so much right now. And ultimately, I believe that this is a lifestyle that you're gonna keep doing this type of stuff for the rest of your life. You know, it's not something that, oh, I'm just gonna do for a season, or I'm just training for this event or for this particular goal. This is stuff that I kid you not, I'm gonna continue to do this type of stuff for as long as God allows me to be on this earth.
Sure. And it's not just for the physical benefits,
No.
it's for the mental, as we've talked about. It changes the way that you are able to handle the real world by implementing these different methods so that you are more resilient and your passion comes through. I mean, I think that you are just such a huge part of our journey too. Just like Greg said, he had never experienced sauna and cold plunge at all, or especially in that way. And you bring an element, and I'm sure Harrison as well compliments you, but you bring an element to that that's so special. And so I love hearing that you guys are, you know, growing this concept and bringing your passion in a way that's more accessible, because we can't all make it to Minneapolis, you know, all the time to come experience your world there. But you do bring it to the people in other ways too. So I'm curious, to segue just a little bit into what's next. I'm curious about this giant sauna room that I keep seeing that's going to be a part of the Running Man experience. Can you tell me what is happening there and like what's your involvement and how many people and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of I've been helping Todd a little bit. I'm speaking for myself, but also we have Nomad Sauna. They're the builders of the barrel saunas that I sell, and we actually we're working on a very strategic partnership now with them. I'm lucky enough that I've been able to tap into the network of sauna builders here in Minnesota, and I'm very good friends with all of them. And I've been in this kind of world for a while now. And yes, so all day running is doing Running Man, as you guys all know, and I'm super excited for them. And obviously I'm friends with the brand, I'm friends with the owner, Jesse, with Devon, with all of them. But yeah, they're not going shy with what they're gonna do at this thing. They're actually building a 400-person sauna. And I'm very honored that I'm trying to give advice to Todd. Actually, Todd is the CEO of all that, and he's the man that took over that aspect of the event. He wants to build the biggest sauna in the world for this event. So I don't have a lot of details to share with you guys because it's been his brain and how he's putting this thing together. But I can say right now that we're doing meetings periodically right now to help advise. And obviously, I'm going to be there during the event. And I think once we start getting closer to the event, there's going to be more specific roles that I'm going to be able to share. But basically, I'm going to be facilitating the experience with some of the people that are with me. And obviously, just supporting them in any way, shape, or form by being there and putting my expertise and my experience to help during this event. But I'm super excited. I think it's gonna be insane.
Yeah, it sounds like it. 400 people is quite
they're
huge.
not. This is not a small dream. This is a massive monster, you know, and the execution that they're trying to go after to make this thing a reality is out of this world. But I think it's going to be insane. And I'm very excited to be there and help and support and obviously super honored to be kind of in the corner for this thing. And obviously, again, I'm going to be there. We're going to have my presence with my brand, with what we do, with the gym concept as well. And I'm super honored to be kind of like a very strategic partner and friend with them, with all of this stuff, you know. Jesse has always kept me in his network as the guy that knows saunas, you know, and that loves this type of stuff. And it has become a very organic friendship and relationship with the brand and everyone in his network too.
Well, you're so authentic and so passionate. It's difficult to go beyond and find anyone who brings that element to the table. So your expertise is great. There are probably plenty of other people who have expertise in the area, but you bring an element that's personal and lovable and authentic and passionate that draws people in. So I'm excited to hear that you're involved in that and a part of it, because again, like I said, you're so much of the experience. You
Yeah.
are, so like, that's such great exposure for you, and also such a great experience for the people who are going to be able to be there participating. It will make an impact. And I know that it's a focus of yours to make an impact. And I love that that is all full circle and that all comes together. So I can't wait to see more.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm super excited. And like you said, like the impact that this thing is gonna do to people is, I mean, for anyone that comes for the first time to an all-day event and get to experience this at this magnitude, I mean, you get to change people's lives with this type of stuff by exposing people to this type of stuff, and the power of the cold water, the power of the sauna, and being in community is so powerful, so there's that very big component of teaching people like the right tools to do these things and get the most out of the experience. And that's the stuff that I am so passionate about that, and it comes natural. I'm not forcing it. It never feels like, oh, I gotta go do this thing type of a thing. It's like, no, I'm so excited, especially when it's a first person trying this type of stuff, and I kid you not, like, every single time is a positive experience, no matter how intimidating it might be for the individual or how scary it might be. It is always a very positive experience, and that's how powerful this is.
Yeah. And you have carried that enthusiasm and that drive and that focus with you, because prior to all of this, you're an endurance athlete. You've been doing bike rides across America. You did it by yourself before you just did it most recently. So like, that passion is something that lives inside of you, to wake up every day, do what you love, put your focus and your hard work and your grit into it. And I just love that now you have the opportunity to do that with your business too. Like, the more I've learned and the more that we've spoken, like, just even the few times, and I see you working so hard and sharing that on your social media. And I love that that is something that's, again, all coming full circle. It's so much fun to watch. And some of these experiences that you've been a part of have only enriched that. I mean, there's so much learning that you have been exposed to, and so many things that you are able to now implement and then transfer to the people who are looking to you for guidance. And there's just so much beauty in all of that we're at different spots along the path, but we're all trying to do the same thing in life and experience life in the best way possible, show up every day as the best version. And you're just a great example of that. And I love seeing it. I really love watching your journey. I loved every minute of watching you guys do the ride across America. I think that's what it was called. Because it was just an authentic kind of behind the scenes view of these men, and the crew, who were obviously amazing, but like taking this big idea and doing it, just going for it. And like a lot of planning, obviously, but just also a lot of waking up every day and saying, okay, time to hit the road. What was like your favorite part of that experience, do you think? Do you have a favorite?
That's a very hard, I don't have just one. But I can say that it was the most incredible experience of my life, almost like the best trip or journey that I have ever done. And don't get me wrong, the first time that I bike across the country, that was super special, but it was a very different ball game. I feel like as I have gotten older, I have discovered that there's so much beauty on enjoying life versus trying to achieve goals all of the time. And this second time biking across the country, I went with that mentality. I was like, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I'm actually very honored that Jesse invited me as a friend to participate in this thing. And that by itself is an incredible opportunity. Sure. And then obviously checking the boxes, like with my wife, with my business partner, with the stuff that I'm doing, can I actually go do this thing? And actually if you think of the idea of an individual, especially in this era right now, like, can you go take 2 weeks to yourself with some friends? It's almost impossible. That's a very hard ask. Like, hey, pause everything for 2 weeks and go do this crazy thing with your friends. it doesn't happen too often, you know. So I felt very lucky and blessed to have this opportunity, and that everything kind of got in line for me to be able to go in. But I feel like my mindset going into it was the best mindset that I could have ever had going into this thing, because I went with this idea like, hey, I'm gonna soak it all in this time, you know. If we're riding our bicycles slow, it's okay. If we're going to spend more time doing something, it's okay. Whatever curveball comes during these 2 weeks, it's going to be okay. So I had this attitude the entire time. And I think Jesse saw it too, you know, but I literally started just to chill more and more as the entire experience went on. That allowed me to savor the experience so much more, to tell you, like, I don't have there's not one item that was my favorite thing. It was the accumulation of all of the things that happened that made it so special and so powerful, that now I can look back today and tell you guys, hey, it was a magical moment. I'm going from point A to point B every day, riding my bike with friends, but I get to take in the country. I'm looking at things, and we're together. We have a support crew. There's people that are helping us all of the time. We are so lucky to be able to slow down like this and take it all in. And again, that was my attitude the entire time. And I remember, like, vividly so many moments of the entire ride that made such a big impact on me and allow me to connect with everyone that was there with us. You know, I kid you not, like, these are great friends now. My friendship with all of them grew through the roof in just 2 weeks of doing this gnarly thing together. And the same thing, I speak the same for the people that were helping us, you know, everyone that got involved. And again, it was a great human experience where we were able to be community in a very different way than normal people do these days. I mean, living in RV camps, and yeah, we got to go watch a basketball game out of the blue and fly on a private jet, and you know, those are incredible things that were like the cherry on top of the pie. But ultimately, we were just having fun, and being kids, being humans, and taking it all in. And it was such a powerful thing. It really, I'm still processing it today. It made me analyze, what am I going after in life? You know, I kid you not, like, towards the end of the bike ride, we were all kind of struggling of the thought, like, oh, I gotta go back to the normal life.
Right. Reality,
When did we get stuck in this matrix of society that this is the way that we need to be living life? And I mean, one of the things that I was thinking towards the end of it is like, oh, if I could just go back to the beginning of my life and tell myself back in the day, hey, just seek for these type of experiences all of the time.
Yeah.
And that should be the focus of your life. Stay healthy, stay active, have community, have real connections with people, travel, visit the surroundings, do that type of stuff, be resilient, get out of your comfort zone, you know, and that's going to give you the highest joy, the highest happiness. You're going to be so successful if you just let that happen, you know, but that's not the case, you know. And me, like, you start pursuing businesses and all these things, and we're all like in this hamstring wheel that is okay, you know. But now I have this tool that it just gives me perspective to analyze where am I going and what are the priorities in my life. And even as a husband and as a parent, these are the things that I want to try to teach my kids now, you know. And I hope that they can see it as a reflection of who I am, like me living my life with them. I feel like, I hope that the more I progress in my ventures, in what I do for a living, to be able to put food on the table, I'll be able to connect more and more deeper into this type of lifestyle, and basically be able to have more freedom and more time to spend with them and the people that I love, the people that I care. And ultimately, always having this mentality, hey, be an explorer, be a kid, be a friend, be a good husband, be a good dad, play with your kids, get your hands and your feet dirty every day.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, it's so simple. We all have access to that. You don't need to go bike across the country for 2 weeks and realize that. It's like, it's slow down, take it in, do things with more passion, and stop competing because it never ends,
That's right.
and just take it all in.
I love that that is the overarching message to your answer of what was your favorite part of the trip. There wasn't one moment. It's what you have come away with from that experience that has enriched your life in all of those different ways. And the truth is, if I think back to our conversation before and throughout this episode, that's what it is all about for you. And you certainly do a great job of sharing that and bringing that energy to people's lives. Because at the end of it all, we're going to look back and think about all of the people that we connected with, the community, all of the things that were important aren't always the things that are in the rat wheel. And whether we're just realizing that now at different phases of our life and adulthood, or our daughter who's 17 and just starting out, like absolutely that should be the root of the message. So you are doing a great job being an example of that and showcasing that in a very authentic way. And I love that you just brought up your wife and your kids and how important that is, because you drill down into it. These are the things that we should be making sure are the center of our universe. And part of that is having a supportive spouse. And so I know we've talked about this briefly before, but I just want to touch on it again. Like you said, you can't just like pause everything in life for 2 weeks easily on a regular basis, but you were able to, and that's largely because of the support of your wife, your business partner. And so we talk a lot about that with our guests, the importance of having a supportive spouse. And can you touch on that a little bit for us?
I mean, my wife she's been my rock ever since I met her, and she's the most supportive individual that I ever came across. But it's a lot of hard work too, I mean, any mom out there taking care of kids as their main job, I mean, quote unquote job, because it's not an option, this is not something that you go and you get paid for it. This is something that you do every day. I feel very blessed to have in her my best friend that is always there for me no matter what. But the amount of love and support that she pours into me to do these crazy things sometimes. And I think sometimes that's the hardest thing, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a crazy thinker. I've been discovering these things that I try to go do, and you're pursuing things with a lot of intention. At least in my case, that's where I'm going. This is what I'm trying to do. And there's not stability, like, I don't just have a job that pays my bills. I gotta constantly be thinking and figuring how am I gonna provide, and how all of this is gonna continue to work. And I kid you not, like, her love and support, and with that I speak about not just her, also her family, her parents, and I don't have my family here in my direct family. They're all in Guatemala, mainly in Guatemala, but I don't have my real family here with me. So I've been so lucky that I have her, I have her family, and ultimately we all have God in the center of it, and that helps us be very mindful of how much we want to care for each other. But there's no way I could be doing any of these things if it wasn't for them, and ultimately, especially my wife, and believing in the bigger arching picture of all of this. And ultimately, I do feel like God is doing something that I don't understand with all these things that I've been coming across, and I get to share with people. And it's she feels that, and that therefore she's always there for me. And again, it's not an easy task. It's a very hard task, and I try to be very mindful of that, and try to be respectful of her, and recognize her. Sometimes I tend to forget, like every human out there, but it's a good reminder, like every day, to take a moment and recognize all the work that she does, and how this is an ongoing journey, and she's been always there for me. And then the joy of having kids too, and trying to learn from their perspective too. They're always teaching me so much stuff.
Yeah. I've never met your wife. I've never spoken to her, but I would almost venture to guess that if I asked her the same question, she would probably respond the same way, that you're so supportive and so loving and so attentive. And that when life gets busy, you have to get rooted in gratitude and reconnect. And that makes a successful partnership, a successful marriage, a successful relationship. And it takes two to make that work. So as much as she's supportive of you and you recognize that, I bet she would say the same thing. And I love bringing that into the conversation because, you know, in Greg and I's case, I feel very grateful for that being my situation. I wish that for everyone because it's a really important and beautiful thing when it's all jiving, you know? So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Everything that you do comes across as rooted in gratitude and passion and sharing. And I think that's, you know, just such an amazing piece of who you are. And I'm so appreciative that you've shared not only your knowledge and expertise, but also your experiences and your business venture, but just really who you are. So thank you so very much again for your time again, a couple of times in making this work. And we're watching, we're rooting for you. We can't wait to see what's next. And I can't wait to see you again at some point, I'm sure in the future, just who knows when with all of the crazy things that we all do, but keep it up and keep bringing it to the world because you have so much goodness to give.
Well, I mean, thank you both of you for reaching out the way that you guys reached out and always staying connected ever since we met. Yeah, I'm very honored to be your friend, to know both of you and to stay connected like this. And ultimately just sharing what we love and what we're trying to help people with and just supporting each other the way we do it. So thank you so much, both of you.
Our pleasure. Where can we find more information on you and on your new concept?
I'm an Instagram guy. I'm very connected with the people that follow me. But the Sauna Papi, that's my Instagram. We have saunapapi.com link in my bio as well. And then the new gym is Sauna Strong. That's also on Instagram. Saunastrong.com is going to be the website.
You have an ebook.
We recently launched our ebook. Is the Sauna Papi guidebook. It's on Amazon. It's all of the knowledge in a simple form of all the stuff that we do, and mainly Harrison and me. It's a collaboration of the two of us with the way that we live our lives and trying to educate people with guidelines on how to sauna, how to breathe, how to get in the cold water, when to do it, what's your approach to life, to community. So I think we packed all of those basics that we have, that we do all of the time, and we put it in a easy, readable format for people to see it. And again, it's like a guidebook. It's something that you can keep on your coffee table and check a chapter that you're going to be doing something related to any of those topics and kind of get some guidelines on how to do it.
I love that. I'll link that too. There's so much information. It sounds like, especially for someone who's just learning about these different modalities or wanting to try them, but unsure why. There's a lot of depth there to help people understand and kind of live through the words of your book, how you live your life, which is amazing. So thank you. I will link that in the show notes as well, along with all of the places where we can find more on you. And again, thank you so very much for being with us. Can't wait to see what happens next. I can't wait to watch this. It's so cool. So much fun.
Keep up the great work, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.